Merhaba.
Merhaba.
From Antalya, Turkey. So
We are back again for
Yeah.
another fun-filled video.
how about that? So, what brings us to Antalya?
You know, we started out here because it's a great place to start the Mediterranean in Turkey. And it seemed a good big airport that was easier and less expensive to get to. It's a place that a lot of the people that we follow have been, and it looked beautiful. So
Yeah.
those are kind of my top three of why we decided here first.
Yeah, it's kind of the gateway, the Turkish gateway to the Turkish Mediterranean kind of thing. So there's a lot of resorts here. There's a lot of tourism, and a lot of people come to Antalya because it's got a big airport, like you said. So you know, it's easy, semi-easy. It took us it was like a long day of travel to get here, but it was, yeah, that was brutal. I remember when we got here, we were just exhausted, could barely hold our head up, but yeah. So another big thing about this area is, you know, just the history and the religious history. Paul started his mission trips here near Antalya. We can't really tell. We did visit the ancient city of Perge, and supposedly, you know, Paul landed, and that was the first place that he landed, right? But I mean, it's 15-20 kilometers from the coast, so I'm not sure if he had to walk up to the ancient city there or how that worked. But anyway, yeah, no, that we went and saw we'll talk about that when we get to.
Get ahead of yourself.
Yeah, I am a little bit, not really, but. So yeah.
Well, what are your first impressions of? I mean, we've been here a month, and we leave tomorrow.
Yeah.
So what's your first impressions when you did get here?
My first impressions of Antalya. I mean, you know, I've read a lot about Turkey, so you know, I guess I was expecting a lot more beach. I was expecting just, you know, I kind of expected the culture a little bit, and I don't know. It's a big city. It's bigger than I expected. So I guess my first impressions were, you know, it's nice. So yeah, how about you?
Well, our apartment is 4 blocks away from this wonderful boardwalk that goes all along the sea, and so I can't complain. We walk one direction and you have the mountains in the background, and the other direction has some waterfalls and some other beaches. Back towards the mountains is one that we took the bus ride a couple of times and did the whole beach walk back. And so for that, I mean, you know, my first impressions I think were it's beautiful. I mean, we're on a cliff. It's beautiful. The water is beautiful. It's clear. You can see everything. There's
got
trees
the mountains to the west, which
it's
snow-capped mountains, which are really nice and
gorgeous.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit different than I guess other places because there's just one big neighborhood. So it's just not, there's not as much walkable. You get into residence super fast, and there's just a bunch of high-rise apartments.
Yeah, a lot of apartment blocks, and you know, just not a whole
parks, you know, so it's nice and everything. But if you're closer to the waterway, the boardwalk kind of thing, then there's just a million open air cafes and restaurants and things like that. And so, you know, that was really cool to see. So
yeah, we got a decent apartment. It's, you know, it's got a nice big living room and kitchen, pretty stocked kitchen. Got an oven, cooktop, microwave. So it's pretty complete. 2 air conditioners. We have a pretty.
For once, we have one in the living room.
A decent bedroom. The bathroom's a little small, but yeah. But the apartment's fairly nice. We got a nice balcony. I think that's what kind of sold us on it. But you're really just looking onto the street in the neighborhood, so it's not.
And it's a quieter street, which is good. But yeah. A couple excursions. You already kind of touched on that.
Yeah.
So
So excursions. I mean, one of the main reasons we wanted to come here, just, you know, to see some of the historical and you know, religious sites, and just think about, you know, the apostles walked here. Pretty amazing to think about. So we wanted to start here and then make our way up the coast of Turkey. You know, there was, you know, you look at the history of Turkey, and it's quite a massive history timeline. And, you know, you had the Byzantines, and you had the Hellenistic period, you had the Romans, you had all of these different cultures that have occupied Turkey at one point in time, and then the Ottomans came in and kind of, established Turkey for what it is today. They brought the language and all that kind of stuff. So it's changed, over thousands and thousands of years. But I mean, it's just amazing to walk through these ancient cities and see, the same streets that, people were walking on 2,000-3,000 years ago. So that's been pretty cool.
Which the name of the one that we went to is in Pergay.
Pergay, yeah,
So
Pergay.
we had to take a bus, and it was about an hour out of town.
Yeah,
but they've restored a lot of it. They still have a lot of work to do, but
yeah, I mean, they don't really put it. It's interesting because there's ruins everywhere, and how they pick which ones to,
excavate
and stuff. It's interesting. I don't know. But yeah, there's just literally ruins everywhere. I mean, you look around, they're all over the place. But
Pergay is supposedly where Paul started.
Yeah, it's mentioned
twice.
in the Bible. Yeah, so
and I think there was a river that went from the sea to there because it's a lot of kilometers. And I did read, I touched on something that talked about that. But,
yeah, you couldn't just sail a boat up there, I don't think. But,
nah, I don't know.
yeah, unless you went via a river. So
yeah. Well, then we checked out our other little excursion we did was the Sandlands. And
oh man.
that was interesting. So we walked there at least, and that was about an hour walk, but just, about 20, 30 sand sculptures, and the theme was space.
Yeah.
So it was very intricate. I mean, I was impressed. Supposedly there's 40 people that get together, and it takes them about 10 hours to create all these sand sculptures. And
it looks like they haven't touched it in like a year or so because a lot of erosion has happened. And it was a little bit overpriced, a little bit of a tourist trap kind of thing, but we did it. It was kind of fun. So what else? We walked a lot. I mean,
we did.
We've had a number of 12, 13, 14 mile days.
Yeah. I think the excursion, anything else we wanted to do was a good 2+ bus ride hours away, and we just decided, we love the boardwalk. So, we can go have different coffee in a million different places on the water in Old Town.
Huge coffee culture here. Yeah. Very, very, everywhere. It's like coffee shops. And I mean, there's coffee shops next to coffee shops next to coffee shops.
And
pretty
they're
amazing.
full at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Everybody's there drinking tea or coffee.
So I don't know if we were just stupid, but we arrived here on the first day of Ramadan, and so traditionally the Muslim people don't eat during the day during Ramadan, but we saw plenty of people in the restaurants and stuff like that. So I don't know.
We couldn't figure out if they were just not practicing, or they're tourists, or maybe a lot of them have been converted into Christianity. I don't know. I mean, it was interesting though. The call to prayer goes off a lot, and it starts at 6 a.m. So we did learn quickly to turn our air conditioning on, so we didn't wake up to that at 6 a.m. every morning. But and then yesterday was the last day, and it was going off a lot.
Yeah. I think
that was interesting.
Probably went off 10 times yesterday. Where, they sing some kind of song in Turkish, and I didn't understand any of it, of course. But
well, so what are your thoughts about all the food that we've been eating?
The food, it's not as strong of a Mediterranean diet as I thought we would have.
I think that's going to be more grease.
Yeah,
I think we figured that out. That was a surprise because we thought there'd be hummus everywhere, and
tomatoes. There's some of that, but not very much. It's mostly meat, beef, very little pork,
meatballs, and
no pork.
Lamb chops, and
so
which has been good.
Yeah,
we have eaten that.
It's been decent. I mean, we cook a lot of meals here at home, so we save money that way. We probably cook every night of the week, and then we go out on the weekends or what have you. And the area we're in is, again, like you said, it's kind of a residential area, but there's a few restaurants, mostly along the boardwalk, which has a view of the water, which of course the prices are more expensive that way. But otherwise the food's been okay.
We've had sushi 3 times.
We have gone. There's a very nice sushi restaurant very near us, so we do like that.
Pizza once, but we have not tasted every Turkish dish yet, and we have 5 more weeks in Turkey, and so we plan on getting all those down, and then we'll have another recap on the food later on down the trip. So
and I think just this area just doesn't. I wish we were a little bit closer to downtown. I think there were more options for, regular people or tourists in general there. We're kind of a little bit further away, and I'll show you on the maps here where we were staying, but basically it's a good hour and a half walk to downtown and along the beach, which is beautiful, but yeah, it's a long way. So we didn't get to go down there very often for dinner. We'd go there on the weekend or what have you, but yeah. What are you thinking about the people?
For the most part, they've been really friendly.
Yeah.
So the grocery stores, not at all.
Kind of like typical grocery store workers, but
they're
yeah.
not happy to be there.
No.
But we did run into this one gentleman 4 different times, and every time it was in a coffee shop, and we'd be there, and he'd show up.
And he's learning English.
Yeah, he wants to learn English, and so he'd sit down with us, and he always wanted to buy us, either dessert or tea or, something.
Very nice guy.
Yeah, so he was great.
He's an apple farmer. So he lives here in the city, but, he has an orchard up near middle of the country somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was fun running into him and chatting with him every day, or it seemed like every day for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, we saw him around the neighborhood, and, he would always want to stop and have tea and talk and work on his English and stuff. We struggled a lot, but for the most part, everybody else speaks English, I think. A lot of people do.
A little, yeah. So you could get by for sure, but having a big in-depth conversation.
Yeah. Any restaurant you go to, they speak English. Or somebody does.
A little bit, yeah.
If the person doesn't, they'll get somebody who does. But I mean, I don't think we've ever had any issues.
No, and you use Translate a lot, and
but
that seems to fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
So that's been okay. So yeah.
I will say the one thing you have to watch out for is the perfume mafia.
Oh yeah.
So
horrible.
So
horrible.
I will say that most of the Turkish people are extremely friendly, but there's some shady guys, and you can spot them a mile away because they're driving real fancy BMWs or Mercedes, and you're walking along, and we're natural tourists. I mean, we're natural targets.
We stand out a little bit here.
We stand out. They see us coming and say, "Oh, here comes 2 white Westerners or what have you." We're gonna buddy up to them. So the Turkish perfume mafia, I like to call them. They kind of sit on some random corners, and we kind of got to know where they were. But they would sit there, and as you started to walk by, they'd say, "Hello, friend. What's your name?
Where are you from?
Where are you from?" And "Hey, I sell perfume." And they'd pop their trunk, and there's 50 different, who knows what's in there. But it's just like the first time you stop and talk to them, it's like
you can't get away.
You can't get away from them. So you just got to keep walking, ignore them. I know it's kind of rude, and we're not used to that, but
it's the only way to do it.
But yeah, they that's one thing I really didn't like is just I felt like I was a target, or I felt like I was it's like I just want to blend in with people and just enjoy the place, and these guys. I mean, there's not a lot of them. We're talking like a handful, maybe 4 or 5, and you start to spot them, and you realize, oh yeah, this guy's going to say something, right?
Or they drive by and then they stop
and
pull over and jump out before you have time to run past them. So.
Like, no, I don't want to buy a jacket. No, I don't want to buy any perfume. Please leave us alone, kind of thing. But anyway, so that's the only, from a people thing that, we noticed, it is a very touristy area. And I think, there's a lot of British people come here, a lot of Irish people come here.
Yeah, there's a lot of pubs.
A lot of pubs, things like that,
So what surprised you the most of us being here since your expectations were a little bit different than when we got here? And
yeah, I guess the first thing is just, the residential vibe. We're really in a residential area, but a lot of these apartment blocks have been converted into like Airbnbs or small hotels or what have you. But I mean, this area has a mix of families and just normal, and doctor's office, by the way. We'll get to that in a second, but just there's family across the street, family over here, and then family below us, and the rest of this building I think is like rentals. So I guess that surprised me a little bit. I thought we'd be a little bit different area, so I wasn't expecting this. We listened to some YouTubers and took their advice on where to stay. So again, I think I mentioned I'd rather stay closer to town than where we're at. But
And it's Old Town that we'd rather stay closer to that just because there was a whole bunch more going on. And then there was the whole beach area that we had to take the bus to, and it would have been nice to be a little closer to that where we didn't have to take the bus always.
I will say the parks here are amazing, beautiful parks. I mean, just as you're walking and on many of our walks, there's just parkland and on
Picnic
the
tables everywhere.
everywhere.
Yeah.
And on the weekends it's packed. I mean,
Everybody brings their own
everybody-
chairs and
yeah,
picnics and just hangs out with their kids or dogs or whatever. And
beautiful.
yeah, it's
So
very
that was
nice.
kind of cool.
Oh yeah. But yeah, the whole surprise thing of the dentist office are everywhere. Like next door to us is a dentist office, and they're, probably 10 per block. I mean, they're everywhere.
It's everywhere. I mean, so this area is also well known for the medical tourism and the dental tourism.
Dentures and root canal. I mean, anything that you need big, come to Turkey because it's supposedly super cheap, and there's a million of them, and they're good, and they're luxurious, and they've got these cafes and comfortable seats and these vans that will come and pick you up that are decked out, and
they have these like limousine vans
shocking.
that take you to and from and stuff from your dental appointment. So it's pretty insane.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of people walking around with like bandages on their face.
So there's, I think
hair
reconstructive
transplants.
surgery and stuff
Yeah.
is big here too.
Huge.
Because those jobs were.
That surprised us. I knew a little bit, but I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, I know a lot of people come here for that, but to have this many dentists is it's crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know.
The animals are everywhere. I know you've seen
I
all
know
the
y'all are
cat.
probably tired of all my cat pictures, but we have some that are at the apartment. That there's a little kitten that I just have fallen in love with, and he's just the sweetest thing. He's super chatty and will just come up and love on you as long as you want to spend the time loving on him.
Yeah.
And but thankfully, it looks like people feed him. They have little
they're
homes and
well taken care of here. I mean, but they're all wild. I mean, they're all feral cats that just hang out in the park, or they hang out, in the streets, and people build little houses and little condos for them. It's pretty amazing. But they're well taken care of, and the dogs. There's a lot of street dogs here, so.
And if you love on them, then they follow you because they think that you're going to
There's-
take them home with them. So.
There's this one that just adopted us, and Lori looked at him and smiled at him, and the next thing you know, it was over. So, but he followed us around one day, and then we finally lost him, and then we saw him again.
A couple of days later.
And he recognized us, and he followed us around again, and he's a sweet dog, but it's like, what do you feel bad? It's like,
I can't take them.
Yeah, you can't take them home or anything like that. So, but they're street dogs. They're all tagged, but they roam around the parks and just lay out there all day and get fed by the humans. Some of them are really obese because they get fed so much.
Yeah,
So,
too fat. So, but the one thing we really liked is that it's such a big coffee tea culture that we could stop at a different place and never get tired of it.
Yeah.
And we've had some of the best views with coffee. We've had, there's just amazing coffee shops. All of them have these really comfortable seating. I mean, they like you just to hang out.
They do a nice job.
All open air, all full. I mean, there's everybody.
Tea and coffee everywhere, yeah.
But so good, yeah. So we've really enjoyed that. That's been super fun while we've been here. So
it's reminded us of a lot of like Turkey, or at least Antalya has a lot of aspects of other places we've been. Like a combination of the dogs and the cats. It's like Albania and Montenegro had the same kind of thing, and then
and
Mexico,
then the coffee culture.
the coffee culture.
Albania was big on that, and Mexico City was big on that, and
and they have a guy driving around in a truck, collecting recyclables or something, and he's got a speaker on the front, just like Mexico City. I swear they followed us here. But then there's aspects of Portugal that are like the cliff sides and all that stuff were real similar to like Portugal. So this place has ended up being a little bit like, reminds us of all the places we've been so far, which is kind of cool. So.
It's been fun. This has been a great start to Turkey, and I think we're both super excited about moving on to Fethiye tomorrow.
Yeah. So we're blessed because of the strength of the dollar right now. Inflation has hit Turkey really hard over the last couple of years. And one of the ways they deal with inflation here is just to devalue their currency. So it's been good for us, but it's bad for the folks here in Turkey. So inflation has definitely been a big problem for the Turkish people. They've seen 40, 50, 60% inflation over the last couple of years. Even while we were here, the dollar has gotten stronger and stronger. So our money goes a little bit further. So your thoughts, what are overall thoughts that you have?
Well, I've loved it. The weather has been amazing. I mean, we've had rain today.
Amazing weather.
But other than that, we've had a couple of really, really windy days. But the majority of it has been 60s, 70s, sunny, cools off at night.
Beautiful.
Just, perfect weather. So I couldn't ask for better. And I tried to come in with no expectations at all, but it's beautiful. It's prettier than I thought, just being on the cliffs and having the mountains in the background. I really enjoy it. So, if Jeff works, sometimes I go off and just walk down the boardwalk again just because I want to see the mountains. So it just, that part's, they've done a really good job of the bike and walking paths, I think. And so I'm just blown away by that. And that's just been, it's been great. I mean, I have no complaints.
Yeah, so next stops you kind of talked about a little bit. The plan is we're taking a bus over to Fethiye, which is a little bit closer on the western Greece side of Turkey. And then from there we're actually going to take a ferry across to Greece for a couple days, and then we're going to take a ferry back, and then we'll rent a car and drive up the west coast of Turkey.
So we'll spend the next 2 weeks just slowly making our way up to Istanbul.
Yep.
And then we'll be in Istanbul for 3 weeks. So that'll be crazy town, I know. Yep. And there's a ton to see there. So
stay tuned for that adventure.
I won't do any more cat video or cat posts. I'll do some good scenery, hopefully. So hopefully the weather will stay with us and we'll get blessed by that again. And, we'll just keep on moving down the road.
Perfect. And then we got big plans coming.
We're not saying this yet.
No, not yet.
No, it's another quiz. So
what do they say in Turkish?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
Cheers?
We're going to say cheers on this one. So hope y'all enjoyed it. Let us know.
Yep.
Cheers.
Adios. There you go. Love it.